Hello. A short while ago, about a week ago now, you might remember that Dhorpatan made a video response to my video where he tried to rebut my argument for God from universal OR. And his argument was, he quoted Dr. Sean Carroll, and he said that the wave function doesn't really exist, and that it's really just a mathematical tool to describe what we don't know about the wave function. Let's see if I can find the exact quote. Yeah. He quoted Carroll. He says, "A wave function is nothing else than a tool to predict probabilities. It is no real wave." Alright, so, that said, I then found this on Mr. Dhorpatan's wall. See it? Oh, can't really see it. It says, Dr. Hawking, this is in regards to Stephen Hawking's new book. Dr. Hawking is apparently considered by many to be a modern-day Albert Einstein, as he holds immense scientific credibility and respect. If you are consistent with your respect for authority and want to be on the side of science, then when a scientific giant like Dr. Hawking says that God did not create the universe, you should no longer be a theist, if you cared about where the state of the art of cosmology and math has led us. Alright, now, I don't think Dhorpatan understands what Stephen Hawking's position is, because it contradicts his view of the wave function. Stephen Hawking is arguing that there is a universal wave function named phi, and that this is defined by zero energy content. This is all valid. And now phi permits, because there's zero energy content, we can get around, we have energy conservation, it's just ones and negative ones essentially. We have the universe able to fluctuate into and out of existence with phi, right? Just quantum fluctuations in phi, and then the universe kind of pops in and out from vacuum fluctuations. Alright, so if we're going to take this seriously, though, that means we're going to take quantum probabilities seriously as well. If the wave function is simply a lack of knowledge of what, is basically defining our lack of knowledge, we're not going to have any actual real quantum fluctuations, because those quantum fluctuations are based on probabilities which aren't really there. They're just describing our lack of knowledge of anything. And so, Dhorpatan, if you want to hold Stephen Hawking's view, you're going to have to dispense with your view of the wave function. We'll get into that later. That's the ensemble interpretation, and that's been debunked now. But the two views you're holding here are contradictory. But you didn't know that because you took Stephen Hawking on his authority and not on his argument. Now, I want to make a quick comment about Stephen Hawking here. Stephen Hawking is pointing to phi and saying that because we have phi, and phi can explain how the universe came into being, we don't need God. Now, the funny thing about this is if we're going to take Roger Penrose seriously, who is also a scientific giant, then we're going to say that the only way for this wave function to have collapsed in the first place is if it is self-collapsing, or we have a universal OR process, which equals mental activity. So essentially, Hawking is pointing to phi and saying phi has all the properties of God, therefore we don't need a God. Well, I just pointed out that phi is a mind, and so Hawking's pointing to God, not realizing he's God, and then saying we don't need a God because we have phi. So it's kind of funny in a sense. He doesn't realize what phi actually is, and so because of that, he's saying there's no God. So now, last thing I wanted to get to was the ensemble interpretation and why this is wrong. We have this is basically the view that electrons and photons and so forth are just little billiard balls, and we measure their position, and that equates to a wave function collapse. And in reality, they're not actually particle waves, they just behave like that because we don't know what's going on. And this view has been utterly smashed with John Bell's inequalities and experiments with entanglement and quantum teleportation and so forth. And let's see here, this is a quote from John Gribben, who was a very famous science popularizer. It says, there are many difficulties with the idea, this is referring to the ensemble interpretation, but the killer blow was struck when individual, not ensembles of, individual quantum entities such as photons were observed behaving in experiments in line with the quantum wave function description. The ensemble interpretation is now only of historical interest. This means there are actually quantum waves. Right? Now this is in direct contradiction to what Sean Carroll is saying, that the wave function is no real wave. So, you can hold to this view if you want, but it's really an outdated view. This is stuck in the 19th century trying to force quantum mechanics into a sort of a classical description that it simply doesn't fit into. So everything in the 20th century has told us that the wave function is real. There really is a weird particle wave thing that we have a hard time intuiting. So that's that. You're wrong with the interpretation of the wave function, Dhorpatan. All right. See you guys.